Jimmy really
I want
cares.
the
One
past to
person that does it really well that I have a lot of respect for is never thought I'd say that in a million years. I've been able to make contacts with some of the biggest adult companies in the world. I agree, sure, when a Mr. Beast releases a new video, people talk about it, but that's the reality. If you're someone that's really passionate about YouTube and you want it to be your job, here's what you should do. That's a really good question, I like that. For legal reasons, I'm not allowed to explain any sort of inner processes.
Hey Oscar, how's it going?
Doing really, really well. How about you?
I'm good. It's really great to see you finally.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. I'm excited to have a chat with you.
Can you give a brief introduction about you to my audience?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I've been doing YouTube strategy for the past 5 years and primarily working with creators within the lifestyle and gaming niche. Some of the creators would include Mr. Beast, FaZe Rug, Sunday, like mostly Fortnite or lifestyle content. And for them, I come up with ideas for them for their channel, and also help just generally run their business. So that would also normally include actually managing the teams. Don't know if your audience is really aware or really thought behind how much actually is involved in actually managing a successful YouTube channel. There's a lot of working parts, and there's a lot of people that are actually behind creating the content that you see. So that's very much where I'm involved in.
So I was actually going through your LinkedIn profile and I saw that your formal education is also in editing and post production. So what sort of difference do you see in like formal editing, post production scenes and the YouTube space? How creators are doing them?
That's a really good question. I like that. So to answer that, I just want to say, like, originally I started out by editing content. I was involved in the Modern Warfare 2 scene, the Call of Duty scene, right? And so I
Hmm.
would play the game, do trick shots, etc. And then I actually realized that I really enjoyed editing, the actual making the montages and whatnot, and doing it to the music that I liked. And by doing that, I joined a few teams. One was Saw and Dare. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I also did videos for FaZe, and this we're talking like 9 years ago now.
Woo,
So I have
baby.
videos that are still on FaZe to this
Let's
day, which
get
are the
it. All
montages
right.
that I'm just talking about,
5
right?
kills,
And
top.
so I then thought, okay, look, I really enjoy editing. I want this to be my career. And so after I did video editing at uni, I decided to found a company which basically works with YouTubers and live streamers so that they would focus on what they're best at, which is creating content, of course, and we would handle the rest. So I had access to a team of editors that I knew because I was an editor myself, and I realized that one resource that we all have the same of that's finite is time. Okay, so I realized if I were to dedicate all my time into creating videos myself, there's only so much I can get done, and quite frankly, there's only so much money I feel like I could earn by just editing the content myself. So I realized I enjoyed the back end of YouTube more so than actually editing, and to advise editors and essentially grow that way. But to answer your original question, it's a big difference. When I went to uni and did a degree, it was more of a general, like, we did different focuses, right? So documentary, music videos, etc. So you could sort of get on, and color grading was another one. So I had a feel for various different areas of video editing. So from there you can then decide where you want to specialize in. How do I feel it's different? Well, attention spans has changed over the years. I think back to YouTube 5 years ago, when, or even longer than that, like 6, 7 years ago, where the content was primarily commentaries, was what I was watching anyway. So it was longer form content. And when you sit down and watch a piece of content, if you are absorbed by it and you sort of get lost in the video, as it were, you can see yourself watching a long video. Like when you go to the movies, that's obviously a standard situation that you probably did more so when you were younger, where you understand, okay, look, I'm dedicating an hour or 2 hours of my time to this piece of content, so let's enjoy it. So as time's progressed and there's more and more competition in the market with social media, etc., they're all racing to, first of all, get your attention, but also to give you that dopamine hit, right? And so that's where we've gone, like short form content. It's getting that hit, or if you don't like it, you can move on instantly. So the fight for attention has definitely affected, the editing of videos. I would say, obviously Mr. Beast is a prime example, really, because he realized that early on, and that really you want to reward people or do what I would brand as retention hacks. So things in the content that you're given a little bit of, and then you need to watch the video to find out the rest. So you're not directly asking for them to watch the video, but there's things that you add to the video to make that decision subconscious, which is really, really key. And again, falls back to the idea of getting lost into the content.
But let's talk about retention editing, right? Emma Chamberlain still gets views. Her videos aren't focused on retention. Moist Critical still gets views after 10 years of uploading. His videos aren't based on retention. He just turns on the cameras and speaks to it directly. So, where do you think the space is evolving? I grew up on YouTube. I grew up watching PewDiePie as a child, and I grew up watching this stuff. Where do you think my generation or even younger than me are going towards? Will they be like more personality based YouTubers or like this Mr. Beast type of YouTubers?
Mm.
Because they are popping up everywhere.
Yeah, so I would say the trendy thing right now is, spectacle type content. So I also work with FaZe Rug, and he's similar to Mr. Beast, where he'll have an objective. Recently, we uploaded a video where his friend went away to Disneyland, and whilst his friend was away, he customized his Tesla with this other YouTuber, Marco, who does various other customizers videos. So in terms of where I feel like the space is going next, and I really love that question, by the way, is story. Fundamentally, you're right. Moist Critical. If you guys are listening and not familiar, he's a guy that essentially talks about the news or his thoughts about certain situations within different industries. But the way that he presents it's really funny. He's got a very unique personality. He's a very intelligent man, and he says really reasonable things. And you actually learn from him whilst actually, he makes jokes, etc. Just from the way that he is. So I would say where we're leaning more towards now is story. I think this is also enhanced and if not accelerated in the sense of now that we have AI, which I love, by the way, I use AI every day. I use ChatGPT literally every day. Um, because of the way that things are going, it's less and less personable. Whilst I know that AI is working towards making things more personal, but it's so easy to create content. Like, it's unbelievable. I saw a tweet recently where this guy literally put a prompt in and it auto GBT. So essentially it answered itself with another AI and created the video from everything. He literally just typed in what you want the video to be about. It created the script, used his voice based on 2.5 hours of him training his voice to actually create the commentary, and then all the images came from like everything. It's really, really clever. So I think story is really, really important, and you know there are a lot of jobs that will be replaced by AI, but I think fundamentally people enjoy the human experience, like actually whether or not they can relate to them, whether or not they have experiences that you like to hear more about. But and one area of sort of the space that I think is dying out, by the way, is this sort of like flexing culture. There's a lot of
Hmm.
YouTubers, particularly like gamers, that have maybe sort of lost their peak and then decided to sort of talk about how much money they made, and it just doesn't really hit. Like some people are impressed by it, but I just think, and rightfully so, that's less and less important to people.
Yeah. So you mentioned a really great point about story. But like in traditional movies, you allow them time to develop characters because
Mm,
the friction is too much to go out of the theater. People rarely go out if the movie is boring because you allow them time. In videos like Mr. Beast, which are getting like 100 million views,
hmm
they don't have the luxury to develop the characters or build the story in a certain way which would emotionally connect to people. So, what advice do you think they should implement to get the story while keeping the attention of 100 million people?
Wow.
Because it's really
Yeah,
easy to
that's a good
switch, right?
question. Mm,
On YouTube, there is recommendation here. On mobile, there's videos everywhere. It's really easy to switch. So every tiny bit of emotional second can be a percentage of drop off, and that's a million views for Mr. Beast's case. So
yeah, of
what should
course.
he do?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're trying to get out of it. Like you can and there has been storyline driven content that's slower paced that has yielded high results. But as it stands right now, in the way the world is, and that everything is this quick serotonin hit, people are happy to watch content if it doesn't really have a story, if you're just getting into the action of whatever it is you're trying to watch. And also people like enjoy smaller segments. Right now the go-to is that a video that you upload, you can watch it and understand it without any other prior knowledge, right? So you can do like a series, like a TV series, right? But the issue with doing a TV series on YouTube is that if I am a new viewer and I get recommended the second episode, am I less likely to commit because I'm being offered the second video? Do you know what I mean? I have no context, so it's not interesting. So that's where I certainly will say for sure that you'll see a shift in Mr. Beast content where he will be trying to incorporate more of a story-driven narrative to the video. Because one person that does it really well that I have a lot of respect for is Mark Rober. He does that.
Yeah,
Like, there's a purpose for him doing these giant experiments because there was a kid that was terminally ill and he wanted, I think that was his wish, to see this massive
explosion. Yeah,
experiment, right? So I think it does work, but as it stands, the most sort of retention optimized video, if you could say, is essentially the Mr. Beast content, because you're just giving people instant, unbelievably insane content that you'll never see elsewhere. And that's what I really enjoy about working with him, is because um his there's unlimited creative opportunity with it. As long as it doesn't cost more than like $5 million, then you're right. As long as it doesn't cost more than 5 million and doesn't kill him, then it's
yeah.
considered. Then it's considered.
The two restrictions.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about working with Mr. Beast. How was it? He's like the face of YouTube. Everyone talks about Mr. Beast.
Mm.
He, from
So
outside looking in, he feels really obsessive. In every podcast, he's like just YouTube, YouTube, hyper focus. So is he really that kind of person? How was it? How
he's
was the
very he's
experience?
very authentic. I'm not allowed to tell, for legal reasons, I'm not allowed to explain any sort of inner processes. What I will say is I really enjoyed my time working on the team. It genuinely, Jimmy really cares about creating the best video possible. That's 100% what I believe. And that's also a big reason why I wanted to work with his team in the first place, because I really resonate with that. I have no issue with people creating content on YouTube for the sole purpose of making money. But if I remember back to my time, like 10 years ago, when I was editing Call of Duty videos and posting it to my channel and doing things for Saw and FaZe, etc., I did it because I really cared about creating content. So it really reminded me back then. And, whilst YouTube is my job, I like to work on projects that sort of feel more rewarding and creative. Yeah, I'd say.
Let's talk about a problem. Okay, Mark Rober, we talked about him. He
Hmm.
finds it really hard to delegate editing because he's like, I
Mm.
have a billion hours of footage. It's in my head. It's really hard to explain it to someone else. But at the opposite of the spectrum, there is Mr. Beast with like team of 150 people plus working on making the best videos possible. And you also have experience managing editors. So
Hmm.
how do you make sure that your vision gets translated to the editor without it being diluted?
Yeah, sure. Well, there is that person that's better than him. I know it's difficult for him to find that person, and I don't know how big his team is, but realistically, he has the budget and the know-how to source someone that can essentially go through the trial process to the point where his style is completely replicated, if not improved upon, you know. So I feel like also for him, I don't want to speak for him, but it might also be that he actually really enjoys editing the videos and doesn't want to let that go. Whilst he has the money to pay for someone else, maybe doesn't really want to let that go. So I understand that. But in terms of how to make sure an editor goes to your vision, I'll give you an explanation of sort of my trial process. So first of all, it's really important to let the editor know exactly what the role is, and also that they will create a trial version of the video first. Okay. I will also create a document that essentially has an overview of the do's and don'ts, right? The editor needs to have a fundamental level and understanding of storytelling to do the video, and ideally has some sort of passion in the niche that the video is from, because that really does translate well into the content. Beyond that, it just takes a bit of time to upload the video to softwares like frame.io. Frame.io I love.
Yeah.
And you can review content on there, you can add annotations, you can essentially enhance the collaboration on a video. So ensuring that the editor understands your reason for changes, because I've done lots of um, change requests on videos. I also try and explain my reasoning for it, so that next time they actually do that, right, and they understand your vision. Because otherwise, if they're just doing the changes and not actually learning from it, then there's no real point, and you're just having a lot of back and forth. So what I really like to do, over the years, I've worked with hundreds of creators, and there are still quite a select few editors that I still talk to regularly, because they do work with me. And it's just about like really caring about the content and listening to feedback, because fundamentally I'm just there to help. And whilst I know there can be creative differences sometimes, the most important thing is getting results.
Hmm. It can be both a better story, optimized for attention. You need to communicate your what you want from the video to the editor.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think of creator-led brands? They are everywhere now. In India,
Mm.
currently, there was this edtech startup which became a unicorn, $1 billion valuation. And the guy started as a YouTuber.
What is
Mr.
it?
Beast, it's called Physics Wala. He started
Okay.
teaching physics on YouTube, and now he started developed that into an app, transferred his audience there, and now that app is valued at $1 billion.
Love
Mr.
it.
Beast is doing stuff. Mark Rober is doing stuff.
Mm.
Everyone is doing stuff. What do you think about it?
I think it's great. I love it. I think for a long time, traditional media didn't really respect YouTube beyond just that it's just videos. There are people that are great content creators, but also business people. And even if they not at the size that you get, you will be approached by people. So it's like, I think I really like the products if they do well. Like personally, I have tried Prime. I think it's a good drink. Some of them I'm not that keen on, but what they've been able to do through hype is more important than the actual drink, really,
Yeah.
ultimately. And that actually translates to crypto as well. A lot of this stuff is driven by narrative and hype to a degree, and it's important to be aware of that. But I welcome it. I really do. I think some of the products are better than others naturally, but I think it's just beneficial for everyone. So yeah.
There's this ecosystem developing around creator community, right? There are startups who are just focusing on helping creators, like Creative Juice. There are companies who are helping creators with their taxes. There is Patreon.
Mhm.
What do you think about that? Like, is the ecosystem sustainable enough that there can be communities, companies around itself?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I think it's great for a creator to diversify. The most well-known subscription-led platform that's used by creators would be OnlyFans. The amount of people that has changed their lives is crazy. And I do think it's sustainable, and I think it's important for you to identify what your audience is really interested in, and if there's a gap for what they're interested in, then go ahead and do it. If one thing that's really really important as an entrepreneur is being able to identify your own areas of weakness, and once identified, find someone that is a good fit to help you with that, right? And that's
But
really key.
long lasting businesses are built over decades, at least a decade. An
Mm.
average creator's peak doesn't last for more than 2, 3 years. It's really rare to see it, right?
Yes,
What
that's true.
happens then?
That's true. But I
Let's
think
let's say a
naturally.
20-year-old kid, college kid, drops out,
Mhm.
focuses on becoming a creator, has its peak around his mid 20s. Before his 30s, he's dropped off. What next?
Try something new. I'd say try something new. I think it depends on how successful they are. Like you need to risk manage. If you're someone that's really passionate about YouTube and you want it to be your job, don't drop everything just to do it. Like you need to risk manage and make time for it, but also be willing to fail. Like it's really important that if you make mistakes or things don't go the way that you anticipated, take a step back and actually try again. There's a lot of people even close to me that have tried something and just given up and never returned to it, and that's the end of it. But I think it's really important that you keep up with it. Um, yeah, I'll say that.
No, but it still doesn't answer my question. Like, what the creator lifespan is so short.
Hmm.
Why do you think is that? And how can a creator extend it? Like, Mr. Beast has managed to extend it, but he's an exception. Not many creators' career lasts that long.
Yeah, and that's because a lot of these creators that they're stuck in their ways. It's really important on YouTube to be adaptable and evolve with your audience, especially if like you are a creator that's been on the platform for a long time. Your audience has typically grown up, so you'll see YouTubers that have died off. It's because they're still making the same content, and they're not changing it up enough, or perhaps they've lost trust. Their audience has lost trust in them. So in that sense, try something else. You don't necessarily need to have a YouTube channel that's around your personality. There's a lot of people that create channels that are faceless, so you can use the skills that you've learned to be a semi-successful creator or successful creator in other areas of your life.
What do you think of ChatGPT or AI like that taking over faceless channels? Won't it be full of spam? Anyone can generate a script from AI models. It's keep getting better even exponentially. The
Yeah.
GPT-4 is way better than GPT-3. The
Yeah,
next
definitely.
version will
Yeah.
be way better.
Yeah, I use it literally every day, and I think it's really important. I'd imagine that a lot of your audience listening are open to it, and even close. I think it's actually your duty, by the way, genuinely, for you to explain ChatGPT if you haven't already to your family, and just explain to them that this is actually a really pivotal moment in the human race. AI is extremely important and very valuable in ways that you might not even realize. I use it sometimes to create meal plans for me. I use it to make decisions. I've used it to create contracts, right? A lot of the jobs, if you were asked many years ago, what jobs do you think would be taken over by AI when it gets to that level? I think a lot of people, including myself, would have said more manual labor work or manual jobs, or maybe lower paying jobs, essentially. In reality, what's happened is a lot of the creative stuff, a lot of the high level work has actually been taken over. The fact that if I were to have paid a lawyer to do the contracts that the however many contracts are done recently, it's I don't even know how many thousands that would have cost. But what's really important about AI is understanding it can't think for you. Okay, so you need to give it as much context as possible. So with the contract sense, I have a rough idea of the clauses I want to give, and then when it actually gives you the information that you use it for, you could just remember you can actually use it to question itself. So then I would say,
Mhm.
based on the contract I've just written, is there anything that's missing? And then it offers that advice, and you can ask it to implement it. So I absolutely love it. In terms of the actual YouTube automation side of things, it's just going to mean that content's going to have to be better. I think overall it will just make the quality go up, because yes, the internet will be flooded with these videos. Some people find it interesting, some people won't. But where you can really differentiate yourself is to create more personal videos with an interesting story, fundamentally.
Yeah. We also talked about the episodic part of YouTube, right?
Hmm.
Have you watched the Ryan Trahan's 30 videos, the Penny series? It
Yes.
just blew up on YouTube. It blew up despite being episodic. Why do you think
Hmm.
that happened? Like, it should be hard because of episodic reasons, right? Episode 17 pops up in my feed. I shouldn't care if I haven't watched first 16.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. I agree. I think it's because the video is so well made and so interesting that he made it work. And quite frankly, the format of the video in itself incentivizes you to stick around and subscribe because you're waiting for that next episode. And it's same applies when it comes to traditional media. When you start watching a TV program and it's still being released, you're waiting around for the next time it actually comes out, right? So it's the same thing. It's definitely possible to be successful in that way, and that was quite refreshing. I think it gave people a reason to be more of a community about a general interest, right? Sure, when a Mr. Beast releases a new video, people talk about it. But with Ryan Trahan, I think it was unprecedented levels of interaction, discussion online about content and what he was going to do next. And you knew it was actually happening at that time as well. It wasn't like he didn't film the whole thing and then he released it, every day. It was
Yeah.
actually happening at that time. So that was another element that I think was really, really powerful.
I used to call PewDiePie breakfast YouTubers, the YouTubers who used to upload daily. Because when I was in middle school, early days, I used to watch him every day while eating my breakfast before going to school.
Yeah.
And it used to be like an habit. Like, I
Mm.
remember in 2019, he took a break for a month or something. And I was so bored that I don't know what to watch. There's nothing good on YouTube.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Trahan series was something like that for a lot of people. Like,
Mm.
every day new video used to pop up. Every day on Twitter, discussion used to be about the video.
Yeah,
Or
I thought it
something
was
like that.
yeah, I thought it was great. I think people like the sense of being part of something that was happening in that moment as well. Like it was
Hmm.
quite exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it reminded me of like Avengers Endgame or like
Right.
Infinity War. Everything was happening and it was an event. You were experiencing it with all your friends combined or all of the other people.
Yeah.
It was like that. Me and some of my friends used to talk about his videos. That did you see the latest episode? What happened? It was
I
like
think, do you
that
know what, man?
event.
That's really important to say because if you create videos that lead to people such as yourself telling your friends about it, saying you've got to check out this channel, that's when you really know you've done something right.
Yeah, but that's a really extreme case, right? Mr. Beast counting till 100,000. You don't see that on YouTube often. Or like,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
someone donating $100,000 to Ryan Trahan just to get him a random tattoo. Or like people showing up with briefcases on road. That doesn't happen often. So
No, it's crazy how that works.
you also worked with Mr. Who's the Boss, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So how can he integrate such extreme things in our talking head videos? The entire essence of his content is sitting in front of a camera talking about a product, how it's
Hmm.
better or worse from past generations, and how it's comparable to the competition.
Yeah.
How can he integrate these extreme things like, dude, you got to check this out type of things in his videos?
I think he does already, man. I think his audience does that. Like, if you imagine if you're really involved in tech and he does his video about crypto or a new gadget or what have you. To be honest with you, I haven't seen the channel for a little bit now. I know recently, the most recent video I watched was him touring Mr. Beast's office. But the way that he
Hmm.
filmed it, the way that he teased certain rooms and then showed some before then, like he's just a very good video creator. So I think he's already doing that. In terms of like the spectacle type content that would really feed into the idea of people, sharing about it. I don't think he necessarily needs to do that either. But the creators that are really top level, I think that does it must happen a lot. People are really passionate about videos online, and when you are really passionate about content, generally speaking, you share it with your friends.
Hmm. What do you think of entrepreneurs
Mm.
becoming content first? Do you know Nothing, the phone brand, new phone?
Nothing. Oh yeah, it looks like an
Yeah,
iPhone, but it's
yeah.
translucent.
So
Mm.
the founder uploads regularly videos on YouTube
Mhm.
in studios like MKBHD and Mr. Who's the Boss, reviews competition, talks about their product against competition, and he makes YouTube videos.
What is up, guys? Carl here. Today we're talking year two.
And it's starting to happen with a lot of brands. Like Tesla is so popular because Elon Musk is a
Mm.
personality. So, what do you think of ecosystem developing in this segment? People who are building companies also getting into content marketing.
It's really powerful. Like, I actually on Twitter, I think Twitter is one of my favorite resources because I do follow a lot of these entrepreneurs and see what areas of business they're involved in. Like, I do like to read up on this sort of stuff. In terms of building a personal brand, I think it's actually really, really important. And I found a lot of people that I work with, particularly a guy Tom recently, who I needed to do email marketing and I have a level of understanding, but I felt like if I actually delegated that to someone who's an expert and gave them a percentage of the profits that I was getting from this deal, it made a lot of sense. So, but with him, he was creating personalized videos on YouTube, on Twitter, and I got recommended that. Whereas with me, I actually don't do any sort of tweets really. I mean, it's very, very rarely. Maybe I might do it. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't need any more work right now. I'd rather just like not. Like I think it's a great tool to get leads and get visibility. And if companies aren't using it, then they're really missing out. That's quite frankly it.
Okay. I also read about your startup, right? FanTube
Yes.
Media. Can you talk a bit
Yes.
about it?
So about 2.5 years ago, I got approached by an agency, an OnlyFans agency, and they asked me to do YouTube strategy for them. I'd never done that before. I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. Transferable skills. It's fairly straightforward. It's models that obviously want to grow their OnlyFans and do explicit content there, so they want to do safer work videos on YouTube. Typically, that involves try on hauls or question and answer videos or short challenges, really simple content that guys are interested in. Now, as we all know, adult content online is free, okay? So why do people pay for OnlyFans? It's because they feel like they developed a personal relationship with this normally woman.
Parasocial
Exactly, right?
relationship, yeah.
And they might be inclined to pay them for content or to talk with them, that sort of thing. So what FanTube Media is we specialize in setting up YouTube channels for models, offer them ideas, edit the videos, create the thumbnails, actually publish the videos as well. So all they need to do is spend an hour a week of their time to creating videos and everything else is done for them. It's all about creating a traffic funnel for their OnlyFans. Now, I don't know if you know too much about the OnlyFans space, but there's obviously various different funnels of traffic that you can use, mostly TikTok or Twitter or Instagram. YouTube is definitely the most underserved in that realm. And I've been able to make contacts with some of the biggest adult companies in the world. Never thought I would say that in a million years, but that's the reality. And we basically work with YouTube with them, so that's what we do, man. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing working on YouTube. It's like dream for a lot of kids right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think YouTube is too competitive because everyone wants to be a YouTuber?
I think you should try and find your own lane. I think just because a lot of other people are doing it, you shouldn't not do it. Like when about 5 and a bit years ago, when I started this company that did video editing, there were other people doing this stuff. And could I have gone, you know what? There's other people doing it, I won't bother. No, I still did it. So I think it's really important to do that. What I would explain to anyone that wants to do YouTube is do it for the passion and don't necessarily go into it with expectations. And if things don't go well for you, um, still carry on, and or you try and use the mistakes as learning curves, right? So, for example, with the models, if they were to do a video, it does really well. The next video, it doesn't do well. They shouldn't be disheartened by that. If anything, it's a positive because you now know, okay, that's not really working with the audience. Let's do more of what is and test something else, right? When you're a YouTuber and you're really successful, do you know what? It's harder to provide value to YouTubers that are really successful because they're doing really well. A lot of the time, these bigger YouTubers struggle with experimentation. It's really important to experiment new types of content, still within your niche, so that you can still evolve as a creator. That's really important, but it's hard at times to convince them because if that video does 10 out of 10, does really bad, then they might not try it again. So it's a delicate process.
So, how do you keep innovating? It's really hard experimenting, as you were
Mm.
talking about. How do you push yourself to go out of the way? Because it's necessary, right? Sidemen has lasted for so long because they don't make the same video they used to make
Mhm.
4 years ago. They are growing up with their audience. They released vodka because they know their audience has
Mhm.
grown up with them. How do you grow up with your audience? Or you can go via Mr. Beast route, target everyone as your audience. But like in some cases, you can grow up with your audience. Like let's take PewDiePie as
Mhm.
an example. He used to make horror videos, then Minecraft videos, and now he makes vlogs in Japan because his audience has grown up and they don't want to watch games anymore.
Yes. I think one thing you need to consider, by the way, is that depending on the channel, like, if you are making content for a younger audience, when that audience grows up, as long as the content is good enough for the new batch of that audience is then you can be successful long term. But in terms of actually growing up with your audience, though, I think just remember to be authentically you. Like I used to work with Morgs, and Morgs was a character. Like he's a very eccentric, he took very heavy inspiration from Mr. Beast, as I'm sure everyone agree, and I'm sure, and he definitely
Yeah.
does. Um, but that wasn't him, and so for him, it got very tiresome and hard to get into that character when it wasn't really him. A lot of YouTubers do have a slightly enhanced version of themselves. In fact, when I actually speak to creators that want to start a channel, I say to them, you know, don't feel like you need to be a certain type of personality based on what you've seen on YouTube. Just be as authentic as you are, but just be an enhanced version of yourself if you feel like, but just don't be unauthentically you, because long term it's hard to upkeep that. It really is. And YouTubers that are in that position that are really successful that I have worked with, they hate what they do. Like I can just tell passion's not there. It purely is for the money. And whilst it's nice to have the money, if you're not happy and you're just getting on your computer all day and just filming videos and you're not enjoying it, what's the point? I think that's really ask yourself that question.
Yeah. So the advice for starting YouTubers should be
Mhm.
authentically yourself because that will allow you to be yourself for the longer run. And if you evolve as a person, grow as a person, then don't be scared to evolve your content too. Change it with you.
Absolutely. Well said.
Okay, this is great. So as we are focusing on new YouTubers, let's talk about people who want to work for YouTubers. Not everyone wants to
Mhm.
be a YouTuber, but this industry is really interesting. I mean, what kind of job description is blowing up a bank in Mr. Beast video, right?
Yeah, for
Or
sure.
like- so, as a guy who have worked with many YouTubers, what do you think most YouTubers look for in the employees they hire?
Mm. Here's Okay. Here's what you should do. find out what you're really passionate about, right? In terms of a general creative, someone that works for a YouTuber, it normally falls under graphic designer, editor, or like some level of creative director. I would recommend, if you're new, if you really want to work for YouTubers, particularly like a YouTube strategist, it's important to either create a channel of your own. I mean, definitely should give that a try, but more so actually edit the content and understand the content on a deeper level. And then you would be in a position to start understanding the back end of it and like the audience relationship, like how would people react to this content, in what order do we deliver the information, that sort of thing. So over the years, like, I was a video editor first for quite a few years, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to now form a company. And then to be honest with you, like, didn't really know what I was doing. Like, I had an instinct idea. I didn't do business studies, at university or anything like that. I just had an idea of what I felt to be correct and tried to work within that as best as I possibly could. Being punctual, like actually being on time. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Communication is really important. As all this stuff is online, actually just say, look, I'm going to be able to deliver it by this time. And if something were to happen, because anything happens in personal life, just make that clear, right? What I think is really, really a lucrative space to get involved with that I think a lot of people overlook is ideas, and very much I'm involved in that space. If you are really passionate about, gaming or beauty or something like that, and you're really involved in, say, the news aspect, you know what's coming out, you understand the space, you know what the sentiment is like, what people are not liked in that space, what people are really liked in that space, right? Have a think about it that way. If you then research a set niche, so say if you're really into gaming, right, and you like coming up with ideas, actually just write some ideas down. Look at gaming, look at the top view videos, look how they're written, the actual title, in what format they're written in what information do they reveal first, what information do they not reveal, and why. Ask those sort of questions, and then if you feel like you're comfortable and like, do you know what, I feel like I can provide value to a creator once you've actually practiced and demonstrated it, just send them an email. Send them a cold email. I researched into cold email. Typically, what you want to do is say, hey, their name, give them a short compliment. If you give someone a short compliment that's relevant, so say if a company recently got investment, so say congratulations on your recent seeding investment, right? By starting a compliment, they go, oh, okay, hang on, this isn't a spam message. I'm interested now, right? And also, just as a person, if you were to compliment me, I'm like, oh, okay, I actually kind of like you. Like, it's just a natural human response. So you get start with a compliment, say, and if you're like new, go, okay, start a compliment and say, I've just come up with 5 ideas for your channel. I hope you like them. Give them the ideas. Give value first is the key thing. Okay, give value first. Don't necessarily ask for a job. Just give value. If they reply, go, oh, this is great. Then ask to go on a call. It's really important if you got to have confidence to have a conversation like we are now. Because if we sit here, whilst yes we're on the computer on end to end, we're not actually in front of each other. But look, we can see each other and have that level of interaction. That's really important. You want to foster a relationship with them. In terms of payment, though, this is the key. This is really quite challenging to work out. And over the years, 5 years ago, you couldn't research up, okay, how much does a YouTube strategist earn? It didn't exist, right? So you have to like think, okay, what is your time actually worth? Okay, normally people will be paid on an hourly rate. So normally people would tie their value into their monetary value in time, right? So what I then did is charge for the day. If something took me 3 hours, but in those 3 hours it was very creatively challenging and it was a very valuable thing that I did, I would charge for the day rate, right?
Hmm.
And what you do, just change your mindset around I've got to charge for a time, charge for the value. That's really, really key. And that was really important for me to think about. Um, so yeah, just give value first. Don't be like asking for a job immediately. Like you need to provide that to them, right? Because that's also a really refreshing way of doing it, because a lot of people do it the wrong way. I've seen on Twitter that video editors, in fact, will actually take content from one of these live streamers and just tweet them a edited video. So they go, okay, hang on, I've got this free video, I can understand what he's looked like, and now I have that conversation with him. So I love the YouTube space. I think it's great a career path to take. I think what needs to be remembered is a level of risk. Okay, a lot of people that are close to me in general prefer a salary and have that sort of dedicated amount of money per month because they have commitments, etc. Whereas with me, you know, it's different, right? Some things might not be needed as regularly as others, but with that level of risk, typically the potential of earnings is higher. So that's something to consider.
So this podcast happened because of a cold text on LinkedIn.
Yes.
If you don't ask, you will not get. I was
Absolutely, man.
actually
Yes, you're
I was
completely right.
actually really anxious before texting. I was overthinking that my podcast doesn't have enough episodes. He'll think that I'm using it for clout or something. I should upload more. Or there are 100 barriers that come in your head before texting, but you just gotta take that leap of faith. I mean, what's the worst that
Absolutely.
can happen?
Yes, for sure. And I really liked your message, and I did look at it, and you know what? You could have had one subscriber or whatever. It didn't matter. Like the way that you asked me and the way you approached it, I liked. And your questions have been fantastic, by the way. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Why not? I love YouTube. I like having these discussions, so I'm here for it.
So I have last two questions, right? Because I won't
Yep.
take much of your time. Second last question is creators face a lot of problems, and there are a
Yep.
bunch of startups around it.
hmm
What do you think is a major problem for creators that currently not any company is solving? So, any viewer who's watching this can, if they want to build something in that space.
Wow, that's a fantastic question, man. Do you know what?
Because you
Whenever
work,
I think about that question a lot, man, I really do. I think about that question a lot to think about where I should put my focus. And there's some projects that I'm not able to discuss right now in detail. I definitely will let you know. I think one area in particular is the speed of which they can get videos created at times is very lengthy and also very, very expensive. YouTubers should be more open to the idea of AI to be inspired. You know, when you talk about ChatGPT again, and there's a lot of students that are getting caught out for using the AI to write the entire thing.
so what I often think
Hmm.
about is like, do you know Canva, the photo editing tool?
Yeah, Canva. Yep,
See,
yep.
so what it did to Photoshop, 90% of casual users only use
Mm,
Canva now because it's
mm.
so easy. I
Yes.
feel like in next couple of years, something like that for video editing will come up. It'll make it so convenient to edit good videos for creators that the barrier to entry for starting YouTube won't be that much. A couple of my friends started making YouTube videos and it took them 15 minutes to make the thumbnail. And when I first made my thumbnail on Photoshop, it took me 3 hours to figure out how to even do changes.
That's great. Yeah, I agree. There are also tools that are coming out to help video editing. There's one that I saw that you upload the video and it'll actually transcribe the content. So you can basically edit the video by editing the text. So if you remove certain words, it will actually edit the video to correspond the text, which I thought was really, really clever and quite interesting. So
Yeah, there's one called
mm,
Descript. If you upload podcasts or videos, it removes the filler words. It just
yeah,
cuts out the videos.
that's brilliant. I think any way to lower the barrier to entry, I think is perfect. You know what, with TikTok, like I have a love-hate relationship with the platform. I don't use it myself outside of like when I have to for work reasons, because I know that if I do, it'll figure me out and I'll spend too much time on it. But with TikTok, like the barrier to entry to creating content was lowered to like anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. And it can be really subjectively bad, but some people might find it funny, and therefore you'll do well. So it's like, some of the content that my friends watch, I look at it and go, I'm like, this just isn't it, but like people love it, and it's like okay, and that's the beauty of the internet, really. That's the beauty of the internet, I think.
You have brought up a nice topic, TikTok, right? It's
Yeah.
been banned in India for a couple of years.
Right.
There's
Okay.
no TikTok in India. It's in talks of getting banned in US.
Mm.
What do you think will happen to TikTok creators? Will it be like the Vine era all over again? You remember it, all the Viners came on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll be really surprised if they banned it. I mean, I don't. In terms of the data tracking, like, I'm sure they're finding out more information, and it is powerful. Like having the control over an app like that so many people use, you can control the narrative of the world. So I understand the dangers behind it, because people, sure, people may look at traditional news outlets, but for the most part, people nowadays get their news from social media. Like so, controlling social media is actually fundamentally quite dangerous if not careful. But do I think that China are doing some dodgy stuff with TikTok? Probably. So probably they are. I don't know for sure. But I would be really surprised if it gets banned. If it does get banned, something else will be made. But I welcome TikTokers to YouTube and see if they can find themselves on a different platform. Yeah, I
When
do.
TikTok was banned in India, Instagram Reels just blasted off. everyone was on Instagram Reels, and there are accounts which see TikTok trends, what's getting popular, and just repost it on Instagram. It's just
Yeah.
TikTok, but on Instagram.
Yeah, that's the one problem with social media is like everything just gets distributed to everything, so you don't really know where it comes from. But actually, in terms of a creator, like if you just have a Facebook page, I know Facebook's not really like that well used, but if you just have a Facebook page and just post your content there, like you can easily build another audience there. So why not?
What do you think of dubbing content? People dub it in various languages. Now there are AIs which dub your content.
I think it's great. I think as long as it has the permission of the creator. If I'm a creator, say if I'm a live streamer and other people dub my content, maybe I'm not directly monetizing that traffic, and I might be annoyed by that. But fundamentally, it gets you.
Is there anywhere my audience can find you? Your Twitter, your YouTube, any place
Yeah.
you want to shout out?
So my Twitter is Oscar VLTR. So that's my Twitter.
I'll
Um,
link that in description. It was really great talking to you, and thanks for watching, everyone.